crunch, bring it back, single leg sweep. Let me teach you how to wrestle. Okay, let me teach you how to wrestle.
And welcome back to Wrestling Mindset. And we're here today with All-American Lachlan McNeil. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, man, heck of a last few weeks. So I guess we'll go with actually start off with your background. How you've lived all over the world, obviously wrestled for Canada. Take us through that, how you've lived in different places and how you've come to wrestling and what brought you here.
I'm obviously part of a wrestling family. Wrestling was passed down through my dad. My dad's initially Scottish, and he wrestled in the 1992 Olympics, and he represented Great Britain. He then traveled over and did a couple years in Kansas. He lived in Kansas for a year or two, and he did JUCO, a little bit of NIA, and he just did a little bit of wrestling there. He did a little bit of folk style. Wasn't the greatest at it, and he ended up going over to Canada, and that's where I met my mom. And me and my siblings were all pretty much born in the Middle East. So I was born in Bahrain, which is a small little island right off the Gulf. And from there, we stayed for 5-6 years and then moved over to Abu Dhabi, which I'm sure everybody now knows, which is only about an hour away drive from Dubai. And then about 10, 11 years old, we decided as a family to move back to Canada at my mom's house. And I started most of my middle school there and high school about a year or two, and then I transferred over to SEM. Scarpian just shot around the Facebook, messaged me and was like, "Hey, you interested in this?" And we decided we'd go down and take a couple of visits, and from there, my mom and dad took a risk, and it obviously paid off.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I was watching some of your bio, some of the videos on you, and I just thought it was awesome, and how you were wrestling the same guys all the time in Canada, so you wanted to come to the United States to get more competition, and seeing like obviously there's so much going on, wrestling being huge, and then you linked up with Yianni and his family. Talk about that a little bit.
We're really, really good family friends with Diakomihalis. Essentially, we would come across, and I think my dad, he's mentioned multiple times in different interviews, but really, the biggest thing for us was he just wanted us to be humble, right? I feel that when you're winning all the time with very limited competition, very limited opponents, you can start to think that you're a little bit better than maybe you are. So he took us out there to humble us, and we did. Trust me, it worked. But it also got us better. So we crossed over the border a lot to just New York. And the first camp we ever had was a camp at a club called G2 with Adam Burgos, and his son Ryan Burgos actually wrestles for Edinburgh. But they were part of this club that was in Rochester, New York, called the Garage, and essentially was out of Mr. Diakomihalis' garage, and he would coach and he'd train his kids. And I mean, I can list a few of the exceptional wrestlers come out of there. Anthony Noto's come out of there. The Dupre brothers have come out of there. Obviously, Diakomihalis, Jaden Scott on my team, Burgos as well as myself. These are all just a few names that have trained in this place. And so we met him through a G2 camp through Ben Askren, and I would wrestle with Greg. And one of my first matches ever in folk style was with Greg. And then Gregor actually wrestled. My younger brother actually wrestled Steve-O. So it was, look, we got introduced to some of the best wrestlers in the country pretty early, and we got our beatings, but yeah, for sure, we ended up meeting them through those camps, and ultimately, my brother actually lived with Burgos and went to high school with Greg and Burgos at Hilton, the same school as Johnny, for a year, and he won a state title there.
That's awesome. I did a show with Anthony Noto today too. I wish I'd have known ahead of time. That's great. That's great. And then obviously, actually, back it up for a second. Your dad being a great wrestler, how did he introduce you to the sport, or just athletics in general? Like, how did he start preparing you, your siblings for sports? Like, what was his approach? Was it more like wrestling first, gymnastics, a lot of sports? How did he start molding you guys to be champions? I mean, obviously, you've got to want it on your own. You can't make someone a champion. But what are some of the things he did with you guys?
My dad's very strategic. He likes to say that we chose it all by ourselves, but I know exactly what he did. He manipulated it very well, and I'm glad he did, because he gave us some foundations by implementing our training in all various different sports, especially growing up. And part of it was also just growing up in the Middle East. There was no wrestling, right? Like, Abu Dhabi might be one of the jiu-jitsu capitals in the world, but there were no wrestling clubs. So essentially, my dad and a former teammate of his, who he just happened to connect with in the Middle East, formed this club, and we just started getting a bunch of random kids that decided they want to wrestle, and that's how we kind of started the first club there. But I grew up playing a variety of sports. I played, soccer. I played rugby. We did gymnastics for several years, right? And just things like that that my dad knew was down the line going to translate into, this is going to help me with my wrestling.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm now being a young dad. My boys are 5 and 3. I always think like, yeah, how do you manipulate it without forcing it? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always interested in that stuff. That's cool. Well, I guess then bring it. So that, well, obviously SEM being one of the top teams in the country. Talk about how that had an impact on you.
I think SEM is schools like that are just they're great because one, you get in an environment where they prepare you for college, right? Like I'm 3 years in, and like it's just life in college feels almost exactly the same as it does at one of these preparatory schools, right? So you really are prepared in that aspect. I think we see a lot of wrestlers who are great talents and great wrestlers, but their careers don't seem to pan out in college, largely due to factors that have nothing to do with the wrestling. They can't take care of their school, or they can't take care of their outside life, or they can't manage their priorities, right? Living in some sort of preparatory school like that, you really build that discipline. Obviously, you have great partners. But I think the biggest thing for me was I knew I had the skills at that moment to go Division One. I just needed the opportunities. And so making a lineup at SEM or making it Blair, you wrestle basically every big tournament you can. So there's a bunch of media, there's a bunch of spotlight, and you have your chance to really open these recruiters' eyes.
Right. And then choosing North Carolina, being over there, talk about that and the coaching staff there. Obviously, you're around great people there too.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me was a balance between athletics and academics. Um, you know, I was looking at a couple other Ivy Leagues, but I decided on.
The time is now to take your mindset to the next level with Wrestling Mindset. Make sure you go to our website, wrestlingmindset.com, and sign up for your free trial session today. Don't wait any longer. You want the mental edge right now. When you sign up for the free trial session, you're also going to get a copy of our free ebook, Building the Predator Mindset. This book has helped thousands of people build confidence, relax under pressure, get motivated, and build mental toughness in wrestling, school, and life. Make sure you sign up for your free trial session today.
North Carolina, largely because of the success that I'd seen them have at my kind of weight range. I think essentially we've had 8, maybe 9 All-Americans at 41 or 49 in the past decade, right? Consistently, we produce at those weight classes, and I knew that. And then I have a really good, strong connection with Tony, and I had that previously. And then, the business school is one of the best public undergraduate business schools here. Now, I knew that I'd have to do very well because it's one of these situations where, you have to get yourself accepted. It's not as if I were to go to a certain school, I might be accepted upon just like my acceptance into the university. And I did a really good job of getting myself into that business school, but I just thought the balance was the best. There was a strong freestyle RTC. The weather is beautiful in North Carolina. So just a multitude of factors.
That's awesome. And I like how you said that too, that it's, like obviously it's wrestling is part of the decision, but you're thinking also, okay, career, what am I going to, what do I need to do to get me where I want to go career wise too, which is big. Cause a lot of times
100%.
wrestlers, I see this all the time with wrestlers. They're very good wrestlers, but they got the blinders on and then wrestling ends and they have no idea, so that's huge. And them seeing you, and especially since you're on the international scene, wrestling for Canada, we didn't even touch on that yet. That, but that's, and to be thinking still about, hey, setting myself up for my career in business. Again, a lot of wrestlers just don't do that. They kind of just look, professional athlete kind of like, and be a coach after. So nothing wrong with being a coach, but obviously you're thinking beyond. Talk about wrestling for Canada. And I mean, you wrestled the last year's world championships, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then the Pan Am's wrestling Gomez, who's up a weight. Right.
Yeah.
So talk about all that. That's awesome.
So I mean, a bit of a disappointing performance, I would say. Right. I knew it would be a difficult challenge to qualify at the World Championships, but I think I just let maybe the draw came out a couple days early, and looking through the draw, I might have been beat before I really stepped out there. And I work with Team Canada is providing with a sports psychologist that I've been working with for 2 years, and it's something that you shouldn't do. But at the time, I think maybe just looking through, I think if I go back, I could be 4 or 5 potential world medalists to try and take top 5. And I think seeing someone like Sebastian Rivera, who I knew I could compete with, and I had close matches before, qualify on the other side, and then he talked about obviously his sense of belief. It kind of opened my eyes, because I think a lot of times, especially with me, I'll look at the senior level and the international level, and I'll think they're leaps and bounds ahead of the college wrestler guys. And obviously, when you see Gomez qualify and beat someone like Nick Lee, that's not the case, right? The margin between the best NCAA wrestlers and some of the rest of the world, it's very, very close. So, learning that lesson on belief and learning that I can compete with best international guys was something I took away from those world championships. And then we went through the season. We went to Olympic qualifier. I thought I performed very well. I wrestled very well. Obviously, Austin's tough. He's big, and he just seemed to he got the better of me in a close match. But for me, it wasn't very hard. Obviously, it's a heartbreaker because you're that close to an Olympic spot. But if I'm out there and I'm performing as well as I can, it's a lot easier to accept that. So now we're just moving forward, recovering from this one, and getting ready for last chance, because I know I'm in a position where I can't qualify for the spot. So taking care of business there.
Yeah. And I'll talk about how going through a college season helps prepare for that, because I mean, people, it goes back and forth. Well, maybe they should compete in college if they're going for the Olympics. Maybe they shouldn't compete. How do you feel? Like, what are your overall thoughts toward that, and how this is helping you for this?
It's hard because I can see both arguments. I can see both sides, right? And my dad and I and Tony had talked about it before. We said in the summer, because we had to prioritize it. If we had to prioritize the NCAA season and the Olympics, which one would it be? And I told them that I want to focus more on the NCAA season than I do the Olympics. I'm still young. I can go for another Olympics. My dad, who is an Olympian, has very, very different views than you'd expect on the Olympics. He thinks that it's kind of a bit luck, and he thinks that it's essentially a world championship with a bunch of people who never really care about the sport that watch it now. So he's never been the one to really push me on the freestyle side. This is me that's really trying to come after this Olympics. But I'd say it helps me because I'm constantly competing and I'm constantly, getting that feedback and evolving. But at the same time, I didn't have as much time to work freestyle based positions that I like. For example, in the Gomez one, I went to my trap arm on top, and I almost had him tilted, and maybe a month or 2 or 3 months of pure freestyle on top, I would have finished that with the trap arm, right? Maybe I would have trapped the arm and it would have been over. So that's obviously something I think about, but there's certain positions where it's like training more freestyle could have helped, but obviously competing a lot and wrestling through the folk style season helped as well.
You were saying that your dad said he has different feelings about this than maybe most people would expect. Elaborate on that a little, because it went just a little bit choppy, and I really wanted to get that point.
No. So my dad, he competed for Great Britain in the 1992 Olympics. And I feel like, as an Olympian, you would think that he'd want his son to compete in the Olympics and he'd be all about it. But he really he thinks that just the way the qualification process works, as well, that, it's not true. You're not getting the best 32 or 16 people in the world there, right? And I feel obviously they do it that way so that there can be representation for other sports, and it's an easier way to grow the sport. But for him, it's not a true contest of the best 16. Their luck becomes a true factor, right? Like the draw itself, had I gone in there and been on one side in Cuba, America, and Gomez had been on the other side and I'd qualified, you'd say it was part luck, right? So he doesn't think it's everything people make it out to be.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And then also, I mean, would you even be capable of wrestling? Not that you would wrestle for Team USA, but would you be? I guess you would be capable of it. You have citizenship here, right?
So no, I don't have. I'm on the F1 visa here, so no, I don't have any citizenship. No.
All right, so you wouldn't even be able to compete for America if you wanted to.
No, right. Yeah. So sometimes they try to throw me in that bucket with Americans that transfer over too. Yeah. That's not the case with me, man.
All right. No. Good to know. Yeah, and then so then this, you still have another year left college.
2 more years.
2 more years. Awesome. Yeah. So what is the mindset now with? I mean, there's always been a target on your back to some extent. Guys know who you are. They're not oblivious. But now we're going to be even more so a target on your back. How does that change things, or does it stay the same? People preparing, training to beat you more. Talk about that a little.
For me, I think it's always been the goal to be a national champion, right? After All-American, even this year after being a two-time All-American now, like the pressure is off there. So it's just about getting better and trying to win a national title. I'm probably going to go up, so that presents new challenges in itself, new opponents, new challenges. I think that's just going to be best strategically for my wrestling. But yeah, that's about it.
What was your favorite matches to wrestle this year?
This year, definitely. I'd say the two favorite matches, obviously the ones I won, but the quarters with Real Woods, that was really fun. Obviously, that was a great moment. And then I would also say the quarters at CKLB where I wrestled Anthony Etchemendier, because that was just a war, right? We were both exhausted, and I found a way to get a takedown at the end. So those were probably my two favorite moments of the season.
Awesome. All right, let's throw in a fun question. If you could pick one move that you could just add to your arsenal, like, oh, poof, you got it now, what would it be?
Swim high crotch.
What is it?
Russian high crotch or swim high crotch. Yeah, that'd be really nice. It would implement well.
Awesome. Oh, great stuff. I really appreciate it, Lachlan. Thank you very much for everything. We'll have to do it again sometime. Keep crushing it, and best of luck at the qualifiers. We want to see you over in the Olympics. I know all of America is definitely going to want to see you at the Olympics. So
awesome.
Keep it up.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, take care. Bye.